हाय गाइस एंड वेलकम बैक टू कॉलेज दुनिया स्टडी अब्रॉड। आज हम बात करने वाले हैं जेकब से, who has pursued his studies from the University of Exeter, UK। उनसे काफी इंटरेस्टिंग कॉन्वर्सेशन हुई है, so stay tuned till the end of this video. But before we move ahead, do not forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video as well. If you have any questions regarding studying abroad, then simply click on the first link in our description box. वहाँ पे अपने बेसिक डिटेल्स भरिए एंड आवर एक्सपर्ट काउंसलर्स will reach out to you in just 48 to 72 hours. We also have two very interesting offerings, the visa guarantee package and the offer letter guarantee package. So do not forget to check them out as well. Now let's move forward in our video. Hi Jacob, what's up?
I'm all good. Hi, Swapnil.
So first thing first, Jacob, I guess give us a small introduction about yourself here.
Okay, sure. So my name is Jacob, and I'm a BSc Economics and Finance with industrial experience graduate from the University of Exeter in the UK. Right now, I am an international master's in business student at SW Bocconi, currently in Milan. So I'm originally from Kerala. So I was born in Kerala, but then been brought up, lived my entire life in Bangalore.
So why did you only go for UK, and why did you only choose University of Exeter?
Yeah, so I think there are like two approaches to this. So the first one is obviously, I think the quality of education that the UK has to offer. Some of the greatest universities, some of the greatest lecturers, some of obviously having gone through the program. Some of my teachers were actually industry professionals. Who've done a lot of great things. So that's something you don't really get in India because it's mostly academic. That's really great. That's a major point. A second thing for me personally, a lot of my interests align very closely with the UK. So like football, music, food, culture. So these sort of things I really enjoy. I really liked it. So for me, it was a pretty straightforward decision. And Exeter, why Exeter? Particularly, Exeter is a top 10, 12 university in the UK. They're in the part of the Russell Group. They're colloquially one of the older universities in the UK, and they have really good standing with a lot of financial firms in London and Europe. So yeah, I think that was a major point.
What all universities are included in the Russell?
Yeah. So I think to make the simplest sort of comparison, it's like the Ivy League of the UK. But it's more of like a group of research institutions that share, a lot of projects, a lot of collaboration, and they're viewed as probably the best universities in the country. So there's around I think if I'm not mistaken, something around 20, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, all of your main Oxford, Cambridge, Exeter, Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol. So these are a couple of the names, Loughborough. So yeah, these are some of the Russell Group universities. There are 3 options that you can have within each course. So you can have the course just by itself, so BSc Economics and Finance, which is for 3 years. A second option is BSc Economics and Finance with industrial experience. So that's between your second year and your final year, you will have 1 year of work experience in a company if you get through the process. And the third and the final option is BSc Economics and Finance with a year abroad. So similar to that 1 year where you work, you can go to a university abroad and finish that 1 year. So I picked the industrial experience option.
So talking about your course, were there any other Indian students as well while you were doing this course? And how was the faculty like?
Yeah, so I think there are definitely a lot of Indian students across. I mean, I think I don't know particularly the numbers for my course exactly, but if you look at the entire economics discipline, there were quite a few, because there are other economics courses as well, like accounting, economics, business management, all of which fall into the same sort of umbrella when it comes to the business school. So there were quite a lot of Indian students. In terms of the faculty, I think top notch. I think the first couple of years, because it's not really, it's all foundation courses, so everyone's together in the same class. You don't really notice if a faculty member is better than the other. Obviously, you have your favorites, but you don't really find a lot of differentiation. The differentiation really comes in your final years, where you get to pick a lot more electives. So for example, from a finance perspective, that's a subject I'm deeply interested in, what I'm specializing in now as well. In my final year, I had a course called Economics of Financial Crisis, and this was taught by a professor called Dr. Gary Abrahams, and he was actually the managing director of a desk in UBS during the 2008 financial crisis that actually sold the same, like the instruments, the financial instruments that caused the crisis. So there's no better, it's like hearing, information straight from the mouth of an industry like legend. So yeah, I think stuff like that is amazing. And I could not have gotten that experience anywhere else. So,
what are the benefits actually that a student can find if they choose UK as their study abroad destination?
Yeah, so I think this is not only relevant to the UK. I think this is relevant, the point I'm going to make is relevant to any sort of education that you do in the West, Australia as well. It's the main thing, the main difference for Indian students going abroad is critical thinking. So when we go down, to any educational route that we've taken in the Indian education system, it incentivizes us just to read stuff from some place, go to an exam, write out everything that you have read, and then submit it. And your sort of intelligence or your capability is based upon how well you have memorized that topic and you've put it down. And the same goes, I think, obviously I can't comment on the higher education in India because I haven't experienced it myself, but like from my friends' experiences, I understand it's there's a lot of, cheating going on, like someone helping someone else, you can copy a little bit here and there. It all works. End of the day, everyone is scot-free and clean. Outside, that doesn't work at all. So anything that's given, assignment, exam, everything, if you just write down what's written in a book, you will be failed immediately. So it's all about, it teaches you to have your own opinion, it teaches you to think about, say, when you're given some information, it forces you to think about what your thoughts on that matter is. And it allows you to develop like your own opinions, your own thought processes. And that way, when you grow older or whenever you put into a professional situation, like a job, when you're presented with a problem, you actually are creative and you have frameworks to think rather than, just repeating something that you don't even remember from years ago. So I think that's the major difference. Yeah.
So let's talk about the expenses that you were incurring while you were back in UK, right? Let's first touch upon the cost of tuition. What was the annual fees or the overall complete fees of your particular course?
Yeah, so I think at that time in my first year, I paid around 14 to 15,000 pounds, something like that. And then every year that increased by sort of 10%. That's like the average. 5 to 10% is what the general increment that they do. And then in my third year, the year when I did my industrial placement as a financial analyst in Sony, that year I only paid a fee of 3,000 pounds. So that year it's less. Yeah.
So can you shed some light about this whole industrial experience that you worked in Sony?
Sure. So in your second year, as you move from first year to second year, a lot of UK companies start posting jobs like as you would for a normal job. They post it under called placement. So unlike sort of if you know how job recruitment work in India, it's always like campus where someone comes to your college and picks you. It doesn't work like that in outside India. You have to go to the company's website, you have to apply, you have to put your details down, and everyone is treated equally in terms of application, no matter where you're from. So it's very methodical. So you fill in an application form, you do an online test like a psychometric aptitude test, then you do a pre-recorded video interview. So you have companies like HireView and all these AI-based systems that like have pre-recorded questions, and you just answer like I am right now in this interview. And then finally, if they like that, then they take you to a final interview round, which is called an assessment day. So that you'll have with all of your other candidates. So like it'll be like 8 to 16 people. That's usually the size, and you'll have a whole day of like activities like group assignments, roundtable interviews, Like they might even retest your aptitude test on the spot just to see that if you're the one who actually did it. So that sort of stuff. So it's very methodical. It all follows a streamlined process, and so you apply and you get through, and it's the same thing. So in the second year, you go to a company's website. If they on their website, in the student and graduate section, there will be like a placement section, like placement year section. You click on that, you see the available opportunities, and then you just apply and go through this process like I just mentioned. And then if you're successful at the end, you get an offer.
Okay. Coming back to the topic, which was the cost of tuition. So you told us that annually you were incurring somewhere about 14 to 15,000 pounds, right?
Yeah, something around that.
Okay, so that's specific to your course. And if you have any knowledge regarding any other popular courses,
So I think most of economics and the business school courses are around the same. Like around, I don't know, the numbers changed now because obviously it's a completely different situation from when I started to now, even though it's only been 4 years. But I think 4 to 5 years. But all of the courses that require you to have a lab, so like the science courses, they generally cost a little bit more. Like when I was paying maybe 14 at that point for like a economics course, a person doing anything in sciences would be paying around 16 to 17 because of the lab and that sort of stuff. But otherwise everything else is the same. Only for the sciences it's a little bit more.
Okay. So while you were doing your course back in Exeter, where were you living all this while?
So in the first year I stayed at University Accommodation, and then for the subsequent years I moved out into private housing. So for the student accommodation is mainly provided for first years by the university, and this is because obviously as a fresher you're coming to a new country, a new place, so it's beneficial to stay near the university, near the on the campus basically. So you can commute easily to your lectures and you're not lost around the city. So in my first year I stayed at this campus called Holland Hall. It's like one of the best accommodations in Exeter that's there on offer. It's very close to so in Exeter all of the student accommodation is on campus itself because it's a campus university, and it's a campus city as well, I would say. So the entire city is mainly live. It's alive when students are there during the term, and then obviously when the students go for summer vacations or Easter break, the city is really quiet again. All the accommodations in the campus itself. I was like maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes walk away from my lectures during my first year. But obviously this comes at a premium, so you pay a little bit more. And also I didn't want to cook in my first year, so I also had an option to choose catered. So you have catered and non-catered. So obviously catered costs more, but you get 2 meals a day and breakfast and dinner, and during the weekends you get brunch as well. So it's quite nice. I think for that I was paying around £250 a week again at that time. I don't know what it is now. So I think it ranges around, from the cheapest non-catered will cost you maybe like £110 to £120 a week, and this can go all the way up to like £250, £260. That's like the higher end.
How did your rooms look like, and what were the facilities that you were getting? Were you sharing it with someone else, or what was the whole situation over there?
So again, the process works pretty easy. So like as soon as you have your your confirmation of enrollment in the university, that your offer letter, and you accept everything, then as soon as April, so the academic year begins in September, so as soon as April you can go on the website, apply for an accommodation. So the way it works is a lottery. So you pick your top 3 options, then you just write down like these are my interests, and then they'll try to assign people like flatmates as such. So again, when I say flatmates, it depends upon, so in my case, I didn't have anyone sharing a room with me, but I had a corridor. So my corridor had 5 other houses, so they would pick like the five people based on my interests and that sort of thing, or at least they say they do. And so that's how it works.
What were the interests that you specifically picked?
I think at that time I put down like football, music. I put down beer for some reason, and I think I also put down like movies, and yeah, I think that's what I remember, something like that, generic stuff. But also the sharing, it depends on your lottery allotment. So obviously, if you're paying less, you're going to get a room, accommodation where you might have to share a bathroom with other people. You might have to share a room with another person. But obviously, if you pay more, you get your own room, your own bathroom inside the room, that sort of thing. A double bed, a single bed, that sort of thing. So it's an entire. So the more you pay, basically, the more services or this thing you get.
So yours was a single bed situation or a double bed situation?
No. So mine was a double bed, and I had my ensuite as well. So I had my private bathroom.
So what was the cost that you were paying for this university accommodation at that time?
Yeah, so I think if I remember correctly, it was around something around 250. Yeah, 250 per week, but that's with food. So it was catered. Yeah, per week 250. But I mean, obviously, when I started, it was Brexit had just happened. I think the Indian rupee was like, it was really like 80 to the pound, whereas now it's like 90 or 100. So massive difference there. But yeah, so 250 for the room, ensuite room with a double bed and food 2 times a day, and then brunch on the weekends.
And let's say if somebody wants to cook for themselves and not take this whole catered situation wala thing, so how much would they cost? They would be costing at that time.
Yeah, so that can go down to like 100, 150 per week. Per week, depending upon 100 to 150 per week, depending upon again like bathrooms, single bed, double bed, that sort of thing. So even within my accommodation, there was an option for you to not pay for the catered, the food, but you would get a bigger room with like a kitchen and stuff. So they were like studio rooms.
Okay. And so now I'm assuming, because you were already like living inside the campus, how lively was your campus?
Yeah, so like I said before, Exeter is like one of those university cities or towns, you could say. So like when the students are there, everything is alive. There's a lot of things going on, and obviously when the students go away for summers or Easter vacations, it's just completely empty. So yeah, like most of the student accommodation, like most of the population in the city are students. So yeah, there's always stuff going around. It's extremely lively, and again, because it's a campus university. Unlike where I'm in Milan now, because it's such a big city, you can't find space to build a lot of things. So Exeter being a small town, we had a massive 3-floor gym, a hockey field, a football field, 2 football fields actually, and then like multiple different like campuses, a swimming pool, 2 or 3 swimming pools, all in like within like a kilometer radius, 1 or 2 kilometer radius around. So it was very easy and accessible.
And how easy was it for you to manage your studies as well with all these activities?
Yeah, so I think in my first year, it was a little bit difficult at first, to adapt to the one, obviously, because I wasn't used to the sort of the teaching methodology, the style, and the way you're expected to learn. So I wasn't used to that. So it took a little bit of time, but I got quite lucky, because the way it works is every year, academic year, you have to take a certain number of credits, and like it turns out that it's like eight subjects you have to take throughout the entire year, and you can split. I mean, based on how the course is structured, usually you either have that split between like four courses in your first term and 4 in your second term. So luckily in my first term, when I just came, I only had 3 courses, so I had less classes, compared to my friends. So I had more time to like relax, get into the flow, understand. So I was having maybe 3 hours of classes in a week, the first semester. So
in a whole week.
Yeah, in a whole week, because I only had 3 courses, right? And then my second term, it got way more hectic when I had 5 courses. So then I ended up having like 8 hours, 9 hours and all. So it increased far more. So, but yeah, like because of that, I had far more time to, adapt to the city, walk around, get used to my environment. And yeah, so that really definitely helped me. It was an advantage.
So now let's talk about your follow-up years in Exeter. And once you moved out from the on-campus accommodation, where did you go? Like, how far did you go, and where were you living? How many did you have any flatmates, or what was your whole situation like?
Yeah, so like I think in Exeter and most other places in the UK as well, the way it works is after your first year, you have two options. You can either move into a private accommodation, which is a private student accommodation, or a private house. So a private student accommodation is like basically like your student accommodation halls, like the university halls, just that it's maintained by a private player, and it's in the city. So it's not on the campus; it's in the city, and it's like probably like a 10, because again, like I said, Exeter is a very small city, university city. Everything is like a maximum 25-minute walk away from your house to unless you're living really far away. All the other student areas, wherever most people stay, 20-25-minute walk. So you can either choose that, or you can choose a private house. So a private house is through an estate agent. So you can just go, to any of the real estate agents that are there within the city. You can just go, they'll show you a catalog of houses and you can just pay. But for that you need flatmates. So I think the private accommodation, you can just go take a room if you want. You can go with flatmates if you have them, or you can just simply enroll and they'll give you flatmates. Whereas for the private housing, you have to have your own flatmates and go. So I mean, luckily in my first year I made like a couple of good friends with two guys. One was a British guy and another Greek guy, and then we decided, let's take a private house together. So private houses tend to be cheaper because they don't include your bills. So like you pay your rent, electricity, water, everything separately. Whereas in the private student accommodation, you pay everything as one. So obviously they charge you a little bit more. So basically I ended up taking a private house with these two guys, and we were like around 10-12 minutes walk from the campus.
How much expense were you incurring while you were living in a private accommodation now?
So private accommodation in my second year, I think including bills, total everything, I think it came to like 140 per week.
140 per week. Right.
Yeah.
That's and this is including your food as well?
No food. Just the housing expenses.
Okay, so you're
Water,
not adding up
electricity,
utilities
Wi-Fi.
right now.
Yeah, so housing plus utilities. So electricity, water, Wi-Fi, and gas, whatever is remaining.
Okay. Would you recommend somebody to take a private housing or an on-campus accommodation?
So I think this question is only relevant if you're not in London, because again, London being a big city, there's no space. So if you're in any London university, you have to take private student housing. I don't think like university accommodation is there, but like it makes zero difference between taking university accommodation versus private student housing in London, because it's all the same. Outside London, in like university towns, small cities and stuff, I would recommend in your first year, highly recommend to take university housing, because what happens is that in your university housing, number one, you're very close to your classes, everything, so it's perfect. So even if you're waking up late after a heavy night, you can still make your classes within 5 or 10 minutes. Second, friends, because in your first year when you're coming from a different country, in a new culture, it's very difficult to naturally make friends unless you go and put yourself out there. So university student accommodation gives you that perfect opportunity to meet different people, and especially when it's catered. For example, every day I sat down and had dinner with like someone new every single day. So like you get to meet a lot of people, you make a large group of friends. So it's really nice. And then third, obviously, like I said before, comfort. Like it's so nice because it gives you an idea of the city, the town, everything at their own comfort, because you can go out, venture, get an idea of how the city actually works, where I should stay, where I shouldn't stay, because especially when you go in private housing straight away, right, there are a lot of little things about the city you don't know. Like, for example, on map might show it's 10 minutes, but then you realize someone has built a fence there and you can't really go that way, and now my walk is 20 minutes long.
Right.
So once you actually like stay on campus, you figure all this stuff out, and then it's obviously much easier.
So while you were living in a private housing accommodation, and it was 10 minutes away from your university, right?
Yeah.
How were you traveling? Were you just walking, or did you
Walked,
take
yeah.
some only walking,
Walked
right?
everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. And is there any option for public transport or something like that?
So I think in Exeter, we had buses for like people who lived a little far away. So yeah, I think you could use a bus, but like honestly, it's overkill. It's like 2 kilometers, like end to end. There's really no point of public transportation. But again, this is only relevant to these non-London universities. London universities, obviously, you have metropolitan cities, so you connected bus, metro, whatever, everything is there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, I would like to take a couple of more steps back and talk about your admission process, which started from India, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what were the exams that you gave? What all steps did your admission process involve? How did you go about it?
Yeah, so I think for me, I really didn't want to take a separate exam along with my while preparing for my 12th. And the UK is a great option for this because they don't require you to have any sort of extra exam. At least for Indian students, you don't need to have an extra exam. So all you need is your statement of purpose, why you want to go there and study, the behavioral stuff and references. That's it from your school teachers, whatever it is. And then after that, it's just a matter of getting the conditional scores that they give you. So these guys, they'll like a university that you apply on the UCAS system. That's the admission system that for any UK university, they will tell you, okay, we are happy to give you an offer based on you getting this much percentage in your board exams. So then you have a target and you can sit down and work towards it. Unlike say like an American university where that matters, but also on top of that you have to write your SATs, something like that. Yeah.
Right. So you did not give any language proficiency exam or any?
No, nothing.
else?
So even for language, Exeter were really nice. They said if I get above 95 in my English in my 12th, which I did, they wouldn't require me to. I wouldn't be required to have an English test, any sort of certifications. So, yeah.
How was the process of you choosing a university, choosing a course? Like, did you contact some agent or some organization for these things, or did you do your own research about choosing things for your study abroad journey?
Yeah, so I think I did bit of both. But so obviously I started out with the agency, so based out of Bangalore. So they basically helped me out to figure out which universities I should target with my profile, my scores, my interests, and basically their knowledge of having students gone to multiple different universities in the UK. So they basically helped me to shortlist a list of universities, after which then it was completely my own research where I went and I saw the city, the rankings, the employability. So at that point I even tried to get in contact with current Indian students who were there through the agency. They gave me their phone numbers, so that sort of stuff. So I tried to do my own research after that as well. Yeah.
How did your visa process look like? What were the challenges that you faced? And let's talk about the whole A to Z journey of your visa thing.
Yeah. So I didn't take a loan, so I can't particularly give any information on that section of how it works with the visa, because I know obviously you need to prove your ability to finance your living and the course and stuff. So that part of it was just your documents. So whatever my parents' documents, funds, assets, that sort of stuff, whatever was required to show that I have enough as per the laws at that time, I had all of that in paper. Apart from that, it was just filling up forms. Actually, this is the best part about doing it through an agency. They streamline the entire process. So they give you a checklist. All you have to do is get all these documents in line and give it to them, and they do the entire processing. Everything they do it on their end. So all you have to do is collect the documents and give it to them. So obviously the basic stuff, proof of accommodation, ID proof. Then I think one extra thing that you have to do in the UK is a TB test. So you can go to any hospital and get a TB test done. Then apart from that, basic stuff, like as if you ever traveled outside India, whatever you submit for a visa application form, exactly the same, plus this little bit extra stuff like that UCAS one, the TB certificate, the UCAS certificate saying that the university has offered you this course has offered you admission, like basic stuff like that. And then after that you submit all of this, and then they give you a date of interview. So then I had to go to a VFS office near my house, and it's basically that interview is nothing to do with your course. It's just to check if you're a genuine student or not. So they just ask you if you know where your university is located, how much English do you know, why are you going there. Basically like an immigration sort of checkpoint, nothing to do with your admissions, that sort of thing. So once I completed that, then I waited for another month or so, and then I got my visa.
So can you maybe list some of the important documents that were required from your end to give it to the university?
Yeah, so obviously your 10th and 12th mark sheets, that's quite important. Then your birth certificate, your parents' proof of financial, if they're funding you, then their proof of financial, like their ability to financially sponsor you. This again, it all comes with your UCAS pack itself. They'll tell you exactly online when you apply what to print out and bring it with.
So, like you mentioned that you did not take any loans, but let's say for our viewers, if somebody is willing to take a loan or maybe go and attempt for a scholarship, do you have any idea about these two things? And maybe you can shed some light about the education loan or about the scholarships that were provided.
So I'll start out with scholarships. I think undergrad, very rarely they give scholarships. Like it's almost close to zero. I don't know a single person who's probably got a scholarship. And like I mean, even if you're getting a scholarship, you have to be like exceptionally talented. I'm talking like you have to be like well known in the world to like actually get a scholarship at the undergrad level. It's really quite competitive, so I highly doubt they hand it out. But so on the loan side, I think obviously with loans it's all about what your ROI is, what you plan to do with it. I think taking student loans from India, it's simple interest if I'm not wrong, so the way it works also, it's not like the US where you need a guarantor based in the country to sort of help you take that loan. I think in the UK they're okay with you having a loan from India itself. So I don't know exactly about the interest rates again because I haven't looked into that, but I can speak on behalf of my friends who did take loans. For them it's even more important that you really note down which university you want to go to and the employability and that sort of stuff, because again, when you're taking such a big financial risk like for your career, it's very important that you take something that pays off, because just going outside for the sake of going outside by borrowing money is the worst decision you can possibly ever make.
Right. There are a lot of cases wherein students they get rejected with their visa process. Do you have any idea about some important points that students should keep in mind so that their visa request doesn't get rejected?
Yeah, so I think like the main one is make sure whatever documents you submit, they corroborate with everything else you're submitting later, because the worst thing you can do is have one mark sheet or one document saying something is X, and then later when you submit it, it's saying it's something Y, completely different stuff. So that is it doesn't matter what it is, even if it's some document that is irrelevant to or very little relevance to the entire process, that's enough for them to just say that this is banned. So it's very important you do that. Then also I've heard, I mean, I don't know of anyone personally, but I've heard of students obviously forging mark sheets and sort of because of the entrance requirements, whatever. So obviously through UCAS they check with your school, they check with your board, so obviously don't do that, because sometimes universities ask for this what do you call it, expected grades. So that you have to get from your teachers in your school, on a stamped document saying that we expect this student to get so and so in his board exams, so and so marks, a predicted grades. So that as well, do not edit it and try to make it higher than it seems, because they will corroborate with the school and check. So basic stuff like that. I mean, apart from that, apart from this sort of forgery, that sort of stuff. Everything else, yeah, it should just making sure your documents match each other. That's it.
Now, touching upon the last point for this whole admission process, how important is a student's SOP or the LORs? How important is that for this whole process?
Yeah, I think that's basically what defines whether the student gets in or not. So I think, in my opinion, there are two things that matter the most. One is this SOP LOR, the SOP, and the second is LOR. Like those two, basically. And yeah, so the SOP basically it's why you want to do it, and if you cannot answer that question, no one will take you anywhere. So it's very important that you really put effort into it, try to understand what's truly driving you, what you have done previously to even show some interest into that field that you want to get into, and also how especially like how your life or something around you, something deep that's connected with that subject. I think that's the most important thing, because if you just superficially say something that, so for example, I want to work in finance because investment bankers make a lot of money. No, like that sort of stuff doesn't work. You have to really have a true meaningful intention behind studying something. And then so I think that's the main. And then a second point, which I really think a lot of Indian students miss out on, is they don't want to just see you professionally. Like, they want to hear about your personal stuff as well, in terms of your hobbies, your interests, what have you done outside your academic stuff, to show that I am a well-rounded person. I do have interests elsewhere apart from academics as well, other areas that you've excelled in. So yeah, I think it's very important that you bring a rounded figure that shows that everything that I've done in my profile complements me to succeed in this program. So I think that is the main thing, where you can draw parallels from everything you've done and say that all of this has taught me to become perfect for this program or this whatever course.
Right.
And yeah, obviously LORs, that's also extremely important. Make sure that you're in touch with whoever you've recommended for your LOR, and at least try to build a connection and say that this is what they're expecting. So if you can little bit help them through that as well, that's very important, rather than just leaving it up to them to fill it on up to on their standards.
Okay, understood. So now that you reached UK and you reached University of Exeter, you're already pursuing your course and everything. It's almost your final year, right? So did your university provide you any placement opportunities, or what were the future opportunities looking like?
Yeah, so I think this is again not just for Exeter. This is any university in the West, Australia as well, I'm pretty sure. The placement process does not work like it does in India, where companies come to campus and they give you offers and you sit through and they're obliged to take. No, it's everyone has a fair and equal chance. All you have to do is go to the company's website, find the careers page. There's a specific section for students and graduate. You apply through there, and it's a very simple 3 to 4 step process. You just do that, and in the end you get the offer. There is no sort of the company intervening with the college directly. But that being said, there are things like career fairs and sort of employer meets, where companies come to the campus for a day. They set up stalls. They send graduates from Exeter, or so if I'm talking about Exeter, they send graduates from Exeter working in that company. So say like JP Morgan, they would send from Exeter graduate from 2 years ago to come to Exeter and talk to current Exeter students, that sort of stuff. So we have many companies, multiple industries, they are all there, in the massive auditorium that's there in Exeter. They're all there, and you get to interact with them, talk to them, ask them about opportunities, and that's where networking is very important. You get to meet them, get contacts, understand what it's about, and then obviously when you're applying, you can say that I met so and so person at this event, and then they told me this, and I find that very interesting, that sort of thing. And also later on internally, if you can connect with them and say, look, I'm looking for something, if you can refer me, something like that. So that sort of thing is far more important than people actually think it is. So it's that's something that you need to work on. But yeah, Sometimes I have heard cases where, like, if your profile is really good and like some company that comes to these career fairs are really looking to hire someone, sometimes if you just give them their CV, you might just get a call back the next day for like an interview. I've heard, I mean, I know people that has happened to as well. So like it's definitely a possibility.
Now, while you were doing your program from University of Exeter, right? Were you also pursuing, or were you also doing some part-time jobs? And how common is it for students who are international students to do part-time jobs simultaneously with their studies?
Yeah, I'd say it's quite common. So a lot of people like do part-time jobs and all across, because it's a nice way to like earn some money, which you can spend, just for your leisure or your extra expenses like food and like bills, whatever it is. So it's very common, and also like it's a great way to meet people, because depending on what you do, you make a lot of friends. So I personally, I got a little bit lucky there because I have an interest in football, great interest, and then as part of, I was part of the university football team, like the club, and when I was part of the committee, one of my responsibilities was to like referee games, and the way it works is the university pays the referees to manage these games. So as a referee, I used to get like around £12 a game. So if I do 2 games per weekend on a day, like on a Saturday, that's £25 in a day for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours of work where I'm just on a field watching people play football. So
Right.
it's quite good pay, but obviously you could earn more if you work in a shop or as a waitress or a waiter, bartender, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I think the UK has like a minimum wage of like £7.25, something like that. So obviously that's a minimum wage, you will get that. But as an international student, your visa only allows you to work a maximum of 20 hours per week. So however you choose to split that, 20 hours per week, that's your max.
And let's say if somebody wants to, work more than just 20 hours, is it possible in UK or?
Yeah, I think legally speaking, it's not like your employer can get into trouble for hiring international students and working them over for paid work for more than 20 hours. Yeah.
Can you tell us something about where your seniors are working right now, or might started working after they finish their courses?
Yeah, so I think again, because Exeter is such a old university, and they have such a great alumni network across London and the UK, across Europe as well. We have friends all across, so people working, like people doing art to working in finance, consulting, marketing. I'm trying to think of unusual sort of. So I have a friend who's actually working in a senior of mine who's working in renewable energy, and he's basically so that's a very different role of financing renewable energy. So there's a lot of industries and a lot of places that people from Exeter have gone on to do.
Right. Interesting. Chalo. I guess now it's time for us to conclude this whole conversation, Jacob. Thank you so much for doing this. And before we bid our farewells, do you have any advice for the Indian students who are aspiring to go and study abroad? Do you have any parting notes for them?
Yeah, I think that the only thing I have to say is, acknowledge that you're in a new country, enjoy the life there, enjoy the culture, get to know the people. Don't be afraid to, put yourself in uncomfortable situations. You won't learn anything unless you don't. Try not to stick with your own group. It's very easy to just stick with your own group, find another group of Indians and just stick with them the entire time. Try to, branch out, try to meet people from different countries. That's how you're going to learn about different experiences, cultures, food, languages, that sort of stuff. And on the other side, you need to understand that you are a foreigner in their country. So to get accepted into anything, you need to work at least twice as hard as a native in that country for a job. I mean, obviously now I think the UK has a 2-year post-study visa, so it's a little bit easier. But nonetheless, wherever you go, always try, like, understand that you are not in your home country anymore. You are competing against a larger pool of applicants. There's a lot of talent, so you have to work, twice as hard as the next person to get what you want.
Perfect. I guess that's the perfect ending for our conversation, Jacob. Thank you so much for taking out time for us. Thank you so much for doing this. And I hope our viewers got a lot of insights through your journey of studying abroad. We will be plugging in Jacob's LinkedIn profile in our description box below. If any of our viewers want to connect with him, maybe ask some questions, you can always do that. And you can always click on the first link in our description box, wherein you can just fill in your basic details, and our counselors will reach out to you and help you get answers to all your study abroad queries and questions.